Welcome to the STATMed podcast, where we teach you how to study in med school and how to pass board-style exams. Your host is Ryan Orwig, a learning specialist who has over a decade of experience working with med students and physicians. In our new miniseries, Uncommon Pathways, Ryan talks to JT, a former Doctor Study Skills class participant and boards workshop participant, about his journey to becoming an orthopedic surgeon.
Your STEP score shouldn't completely define you or dictate entirely what you do. And so if this is something that you really, really want to do, and you know that beyond a shadow of a doubt, you should just go for it. And
This is Ryan Orwig with the STATMed Learning Podcast, where we talk about studying, time maximization, and board-style test taking for doctors, med students, and those in related fields. Today, I'm here with Dr. JT, who is going to share some insights into the challenges he faced in his uncommon pathway to becoming a surgeon. JT, thanks for coming on here with me.
Yeah, Ryan, thanks a lot. It's great to be here.
Can you tell us where you are in your career right now?
Yeah, so I am, thanks to STATMed, a board-eligible orthopedic surgeon. I just completed 5 years of orthopedic residency, and I'm in my fellowship now. Fellowship just an extra year of training for hip and knee surgery. And after I complete my fellowship, I will be starting practice.
Awesome. So to be an orthopedic surgeon, you must be a great test taker. Someone who's like a Top Gun pilot when it comes to testing throughout med school, throughout your career. Is that you?
No, not at all. I wouldn't say I was a horrendous test taker, but I certainly was not the guy that you think of whenever you think of, the person that gets into orthopedic surgery. Orthopedics is a very competitive field, and it's only becoming more competitive. And the biggest barrier to entry for a lot of people is step one. Obviously, that's going to change a lot over the next few years as step one is no longer is no longer a actual numbered score. But it was a huge hurdle for me, and it was a huge source of anxiety just because I knew there was a certain number that I thought that I had to meet, and if I didn't meet that number, then I wouldn't get to be an orthopedic surgeon, and I wouldn't get to do what I wanted to do. So there was a lot of pressure that I had put on myself.
So you knew you wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon, or at least a surgeon of some sort, going into medical school, right? And you were putting all this pressure on yourself. And what was your step one score?
Yeah, so step one, my score was, I believe, it was like a 223, 224, something like that. I mean, not a bad score, but not an ortho score.
Not an ortho score, right? So you basically felt like when you saw that score, what were you thinking about this dream you had of becoming an orthopedic surgeon?
Yeah, I mean, I thought I was toast. I was like, I started to question, like, is it even worth applying? Just because of my score. So yeah, I was very, very, very discouraged at that point.
Yeah. No, so that happens, right? And then, obviously the ideas get better through shelves, get better by step two. So you're doubling down on this and you hit your step two. What was the circuit there for you?
Yeah. So, after, all through medical school, I had always reached out to people who were a few years ahead of me and had been through the process. And I really relied on them for advice and counsel. And, when I found out what my step one score was, I was freaking out. And so, of course, I would ask people, it's like, man, is this even worth doing? Should I just try something different altogether? And, almost universally, people told me, and this is what I tell people now, like your step score shouldn't completely define you or dictate entirely what you do. And so if this is something that you really, really want to do, and you know that beyond a shadow of a doubt, you should just go for it. And you should make every effort to make yourself a good applicant, despite the fact that you may not have the best test score. So after my step one score, I really set out into third year, saying, yeah, I'm going to redeem myself on step two. I'm just really going to do well in my clinical rotations, and then just show up as much as I can to and work with the orthopedic department as much as possible and just show them that I'm a hard worker and easy to work with. So,
and a team player, somebody that they can rely on, somebody they want to be with. Because you talked about these other things. Now, not everybody can make it to this mountain peak that you made it to, and you and I've talked about that. But it seems like what you did was you really did network. You worked with the people in your medical school community. You used mentorship. You found other people. You talked to them. But again, it sounds like you say being present, letting them know that you are someone that they can work with, that can ask the right questions, is teachable, is trainable. And you did this throughout your med school career, along with just your classroom basics, your rotation basics.
Yeah, 100%. One of the things that people always told me, and I can tell you this from experience in in residency, it's like, the guys that come in that have a 270, they may have great scores on paper, but they may really not be cool guys to hang around with. Not somebody that you want to be putting in long hours at the hospital with. May not be easy to work with, but you get a guy that has a 220 or a 230 that wants to be there, that wants to work, that's as a team player. Like, if they see that, like, they're going to take that guy with the 230 every single time.
It's really interesting. It's an amazing, just thinking about where real world stuff intersects with the paper-based applicant. So you did that. You took your step 2, and then what happened with step 2? Yeah, you crushed that one.
No, I did not. So I went down like 2 or 3 points on step 2. I made like a 221, and that was a gut punch. I was extremely down after that one. I got my score on my 4th year ortho rotation, and I was like, the next day I was actually going to ask the chairman for a rec letter so that he could write me the rec letter for residency. And I went in his office and I told him, I said, look, this is my score on step 2. Obviously not what I wanted. I studied really hard, and this is just what happened. And I just said, I'm just very discouraged by all this. And he told me, he said, he said, if every orthopedic surgeon had to be AOA and make a 250 on step, there wouldn't be many orthopedic surgeons. And so that was a huge encouragement to me, and that's something I've told numerous people before, and it's true. A test is just one facet of the applicant and of the application process, and there's other things that can make you a good applicant. So you shouldn't. It's important, but you shouldn't let that everything ride on that 1 or 2 test scores.
So this is already painting a picture of this guy. You are now, at the tail end of all your training, and you made it through all this stuff despite these issues with test taking. And some people think that test taking means, do I pass the test or do I not? Do I pass my step or do I not pass my step? But there can be issues with test taking that are not reflective purely in the score or the passing and the failing. Perhaps somebody is testing at 220, but their knowledge really is 240, 250. But it's not translating due to too many unforced test-taking errors. It could be that some people might come to me and say, I study all the time, I do great clinically, but my scores aren't reflecting it. Well, yeah, maybe it's test taking, or maybe it's more study based. Maybe it's happening in the way you're taking and receiving and organizing and encoding and retrieving the information. Maybe it's a combination of both. But what we're hearing here is there's also this other side of interpersonal communication, professionalism, being a team player, being somebody that can receive feedback and build off of all that. So how do you go? What's the short version of, you come out with your step 1, your step 2, you get through your rotations, they know who you are, you're sort of doing your training in the South, you're networking, people. How do you go? How did you land this residency then?
Yeah, so I applied just like everybody else did. I had all the just the standard application process. I had a lot of support from my home program. I had a good relationship with the chairman there and specifically the program director. And their letters of rec went a long way. I got around 9 interviews when I was going through the application process, which was a lot for somebody that had a that had a 220. And I attribute that to the strength of my rec letters, and a lot of the other extracurricular stuff that I had done to improve my application. I was really involved with a few, one pretty large national organization, and was on a leadership position there that looked great on my application, and I had a lot of things to talk about with regards to that experience. And I had some research as well with the orthopedic department. So I had a lot of other things to supplement my application, in addition to strong backing from the faculty at my home program that really allowed me to look at a lot of other programs that I would not have had the option to had I not, if I was just going on on the score that I had on step 1 and step 2. But yeah, I interviewed kind of all over the country. I'm a homebody and wasn't too interested in going way far off, and I loved the program there at my home institution. They had a great reputation, just really always had good residents that worked well together. There was a lot of camaraderie. And so it was a really easy sell for me to stay at home. So I ranked my home program number 1, and on match day, I ended up staying at my home institution, and I was just, I was thrilled. I mean, it was a huge weight off my shoulders, because it was kind of like the monkey on my back for 4 years of med school. It's like, man, am I gonna be able to do what I want to do, or am I gonna have to be stuck in some field that I'm absolutely miserable in? So it was kind of a golden ticket, as my chairman would always say. Orthopedics is the golden ticket. So I definitely felt like I had gotten the golden ticket on match day.
So you then are in your orthopedic surgery residency. You made it. Life was amazing. Life was great. No more stress, no more troubles. Not the case, right?
Yeah, not the case for a number of reasons. Yeah, residency is hard. It doesn't matter what residency you're doing. It's a huge change of pace going from medical school, because all of a sudden you're responsible for people, and your decisions actually matter. Orthopedics is a very, very challenging residency. I mean, orthopedics is up there with neurosurgery in terms of the time and the difficulty of those 5 years. So there's a lot of just challenges from a workload perspective, and that's a whole nother conversation altogether. But once you get an ortho residency, like, testing doesn't stop.
So what were some of the things that were so personally hard for you? And because we're getting close to where you and I sort of connected finally.
Yeah.
Because, at this point, we've never met. We haven't talked. But, because where we're leading with this is what led you, someone who's at sort of at the tail end of your orthopedic residency, to reach out to somebody like us, right? Because so far, even though you haven't, scored as well as you would have liked and stuff like that, there's no true crisis point here.
Yeah.
So what was these things that build up year after year throughout this 5-year this program that led you to sort of I don't know, down the particular internet rabbit hole to find us?
So like I was saying, once you hit residency, testing doesn't stop, and there's a test every year that you take. It's called the Orthopedic In-Training Exam, or the OIT for short, or OIT, some programs call it. But I mean, it is just it is a terrible test, and every resident dreads it. It's every November, and everybody in the country takes the same test, and every resident years 1 through 5 takes the same test. And of course, they publish the scores, and you get your score back, and programs use it as a metric to see kind of where they are in the throughout the country, to see how well they're educating their residents, and then also gives you as a resident a chance to see, well, how do I stack up against other residents throughout the country in terms of my knowledge base. So first year, I took it, and I guess I felt going into it, I was like, well, this is just orthopedics. Like, this is what I'm interested in. This is only one particular thing that I have to study. It's not like I'm having to study, urinary tract infections or things like that.
All this stuff throughout med school and through like the stuff that you had zero interest in, right?
Exactly. So I was like, well, this is going to be different, because I'm actually going to be able to study stuff that I like, and I think I'll probably do better on this. Well, my first in-training exam was at the height of intern year when I was just crazy busy. And so I didn't do well then. And so I kind of, just took that as this is just me getting used to everything. But obviously would have liked to have done better. Second year rolled around, it's kind of the same thing. Like I just did not do well on the exam, and looking at it from a percentile basis. You always get this, your metric is like, well, what percentile were you in? And, if you score like below the 20th percentile, like, you're in the doghouse with your program director and you get dragged in. It's like, why didn't you study harder and all these things? And so anyway, that was my story, all through residency. Like I was never the guy that knocked the in-training exam out of the park, even though I studied. I was consistent with my studying. I was working questions all the time, but just could never really hit that number.
So percentile means comparing, I'm sure everyone knows this, but that's comparing you against all your peers across the country taking this test. Where do you fall with everybody taking this test? And were you always in the doghouse, this proverbial doghouse, or were you sometimes out of the doghouse, sometimes in?
I don't think I ever really cracked like the 30th percentile.
But isn't this sort of part of it? Like, it's this idea they drag you in and they yell at you, they browbeat you, basically trying to they're accusing you of not studying enough, not doing enough practice questions, not being serious enough, not taking it the way that it needs to be taken. That's where a lot of these programs, and this is from residency all the way down through med school and even below, where they just want to almost guilt you into performing better because they quote unquote need you to. But it's not tactical, it's not analytical, it's not, really installing strategies and methodologies. In general, that's my experience. And then I think that if you are at a really, really like top end institution, they're not going to think about methodology. And at a top end, highly competitive field like orthopedic surgery, they're like, we know you're good enough there because you're here. And then they're also thinking like, hey, look how well you perform clinically, but then you're not hitting the score. Therefore, you're not working hard enough, which is not helpful for the pressure, for the stress, for the anxiety, for the dread, which I think was part of this experience that was growing in you, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I will say, my program, in particular, my program director is a tremendous educator, and he was always the first person to reach out and say, hey, look, whatever help you need to get better at this, we are more than willing to go the distance to do that. So I certainly don't want to throw my program under the bus, but they, in particular, once I found STATMed, they went above and beyond to accommodate me and help me succeed.
Oh yeah, I've spoken with the people there, and the open-mindedness and the interest, because I think what we're doing on our end, this idea of installing methodologies in highly intelligent, highly motivated medical professionals is fascinating if somebody's open-minded enough to listen to it, right?
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. Your program was like totally on board,
absolutely,
and excited, which is what I want, obviously, as we're building this thing that we're building on our end.
And I think this is maybe a little rabbit trail, but I think it's worth saying. I think a lot of this is we're finding that there's just different way that people learn in different ways. And so as standardized testing just becomes has evolved, you just realize that there are people that learn differently.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, that I have to have structure. And this is one of the things that STATMed taught me. And residency in general just is not, as particularly a very, very busy, high clinical volume residency, is not conducive to a strong educational structure. And so this is something that I talked with my program director about as I was leaving. It's like, for people like me that need structure, like you have to identify that very early. Otherwise, these problems are just going to keep coming up. And so it's a lot of times I feel like in the past when programs would be like, you're not working hard enough. I think people are starting to realize it's like, oh, it's not that you're not working hard enough. It's like you're not working in the right way. Like you're directing your efforts in a way that is just it's not effective. And so I think what this program has shown me, and I think what it'll show to a lot of people, is that it's all about how you're learning, not necessarily how much you are how much you're doing. It's definitely a more focused approach that is in the long run far more effective.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So just a little. So what led you throughout the course of the 5 years to then sort of at the tail end, as you're getting ready to take your final board exam? What led you to reach out to us or to seek us out? I guess just describe some of the things that led you to say, like, I need, other than just the in-service exam.
Sure. So my fourth year of residency, I really, really studied hard for the in-training exam. I mean, I was consistent with how I was doing, how I was working questions, doing stuff every single day. And I got my score back, and it was terrible. Like, I was in like the 15th percentile or something. I mean, something just crazy. And I was so mad because I had put in all this time, and it's like, I know this stuff. Like, this is just not reflective of my effort or my knowledge. And one of the things that they always tell us is, like, if you score below, like, I don't know, maybe the 25th or 20th percentile as a 4, you're at a significantly higher risk of passing the board. So it's like that scared me to death. I was like, all right, well, I've got to do something. And I just, went down this hole online of just trying to figure out, why am I missing questions that I shouldn't be missing? Like, because I'd look at my questions that I'd miss, and I'd be like, no, like, why did I miss that?
Right.
Like, I know that. Why didn't I see that in the answer choice, or why didn't I see that particular thing in the question? And I knew that there was something that I was doing incorrectly, like, in my process. Like, and I didn't have the words to articulate that yet, but that's what I was looking for somebody to speak to that. And I just started Google searching, and I came across y'all's stuff on YouTube. And I think I found y'all within about a week of y'all launching stuff on YouTube.
Yeah, we had just put that stuff out.
I mean, it was so early. Like, y'all's video, I mean, had like a couple hundred views, and I was like, what? Like,
yeah, you were outraged.
yeah. I was like, what is this? And y'all just start talking about this stuff that was like, you're missing these questions. Like, you feel like you're studying all the time and just not getting anywhere. And I was like, man, they are speaking my language. Like, this is exactly the stuff that I'm struggling with. So I can't remember. I think I emailed you and it's like, hey, can I talk with you? And then I ended up having a conversation with you and kind of went through my story and told you what I had been struggling with, and we went from there.
Yeah, because then we had about a 6-month run to get you sort of to re-engineer what you were doing, so you could actually get the more bang for your buck. So yeah, we talked for a while.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of the STATMed podcast. In the next episode, Ryan and JT will dig into study-based issues. If you like the show, be sure to rate it on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. You can find more test-taking and studying strategies specifically designed for med students and physicians over at our blog on statmedlearning.com. Thanks for listening.